What's up, guys? Welcome to the first iteration of True Damage Labs, where I'll put every playable character in a game on the testing grounds to see whose moveset does the biggest damage. Here we are tackling the original Super Smash Bros. On the Nintendo 64. I'll go over all 12 fighters in the game, from the lowest scoring one to the highest, and talk about what kind of damage each of their attacks brings to the table. This video is going to be a lot of spouting out numbers and data, so if that's your kind of shtick, then I hope you enjoy. If you hate numbers, I hope you enjoy anyways if you plan to stick around, but if not, I understand, and I appreciate you for stopping by at least. Before I get into the thick of it, I gotta preface this video with like 5 disclaimers. First, this does not measure the actual overall quality of the fighters. The fighter with the weakest total damage could still be one of the best fighters in the game for other reasons. Likewise, the fighter with the highest total damage is not necessarily the best. There are tons of other stats to measure a fighter by, but I'm strictly interested in the pure damage. Second, every character gets to use each of their attacks only once. One push of the button, one input to activate the attack. Unless an attack either requires multiple button pushes to use, such as a 1-2 combo, or an attack has variations that could reasonably be considered unique attacks on their own. Yeah, this means some fighters will have more attacks contributing to their total score than others, but that's just the nature of how they were made. In general, this will mean every fighter will test the following: neutral attack, side attack, up attack, down attack, dash attack, neutral special, up special, down special, forward throw, back throw, neutral aerial, forward aerial, back aerial, up aerial, down aerial, forward smash, up smash, and down smash. There is a lot of gray area with this rule of thumb, so please bear with me. I'll do my best to justify every attack on a case-by-case basis. I will not be including attacks done by recovering from a ledge, or attacks done when getting up after being knocked to the floor. Third, I will use the most powerful version of every attack. Some attacks do more damage based on the direction they are tilted, or how direct the attack lands, or some attacks may be multi-hits, in which case I will land the most hits possible. Fourth, to make it even across the board, a single Mario is our universal punching bag. No swapping in a different character as a punching bag, no adding in extra characters, and no use of items. There are a few times I changed the stage we were fighting on to get use of better terrain, like a slope or bouncing Mario off of a wall, but that's it, and no damage from stage hazards were included. Finally, I did a lot of experimenting with every character's movesets, trying attacks from different angles, different timings, different positions. Maybe I made Punching Bag Mario stand still, maybe I made him jump, or maybe even fight back to get the best results of an attack I was testing. I feel like I did some thorough testing. That being said, I'm only human, guys. If I made a mistake or there's a way to get more damage out of an attack that I couldn't, then I apologize. I tried my best. Alright, all that's out of the way, so let's roll into last place, the fighter with the weakest true damage score in Smash 64. Number 12 is Fox. Yeah, remember when I said damage didn't translate to quality? Fox is one of the most used fighters in the competitive scene. Let's look at his damage. Neutral attack is a 2-punch combo followed by a rapid flurry of kicks. Fox will continue to kick if the attack button keeps getting pressed. I only push the button 3 times. Once for punch 1, twice for punch 2, and a third time to trigger 1 volley of kicks. These hits combined did 12 damage. His side attack does 11 damage when tilted upwards. His up attack does 9 damage, which is the second weakest up attack. Down attack does 12 damage. His dash attack does 10 damage on a clean hit, which is tied with 2 other fighters as the weakest dash attack. His neutral special, Fox's Laser Pistol, is usually meant to be rapid fired in quick succession, but per the rules, Fox only gets 1 use in the True Damage Labs. One shot does 6 damage, which ties with 1 other fighter as the second weakest neutral special. Up special does 16 damage. Down special is unique. Fox can deal damage in 2 different ways. Using the reflector right next to an enemy will deal 5 damage by shocking them as it appears, and reflecting a projectile will send it back at the enemy for almost double the damage it would have originally done to Fox. In the case of Mario's Fireball, that's 13 damage when reflected back. I'm counting both of these applications for a total of 18 damage. 1, because it's 2 completely different uses for the move, and 2, since the reflector stays up as long as you hold down the button, you can shock someone and send a projectile back in a single activation. Forward throw does 12 damage, which is tied with 4 other fighters as the weakest forward throw. Back throw does 15 damage, which is the second weakest back throw. Neutral aerial does 14 damage on a clean hit. Forward aerial does 12 damage on a clean hit, which is tied with 1 other fighter as the weakest forward aerial. Back aerial does 12 damage on a clean hit, which is the weakest back aerial. Up aerial does 15 damage if both hits connect. Down aerial does 14 damage if all 7 hits connect. Forward smash does 17 damage on a clean hit, which is tied with one other fighter as the third weakest forward smash. Up smash does 16 damage on a clean hit, which is tied with one other fighter as the weakest up smash. Finally, Fox's down smash, which does 14 damage and is tied with one other fighter as the weakest down smash. That brings Fox's true damage score to 235. And we can see why. 10 of Fox's attacks were recognized for their weak rankings, and none were recognized for a strong milestone. His throw, aerial, and smash totals are the lowest of the cast. Special attack total is below average, and normal attack total is just a hair below average. So I mean, that really speaks for itself. Fox's damage totals fall below the mark in every category. At rank 11, the second lowest true damage total is Pikachu. Pikachu's neutral attack is a rapid headbutt that keeps going if you keep pressing the attack button, kinda like Fox's repeated kicks, but there's two key differences. First, Fox led up with 2 punches in his combo before going into the kicks, and Pikachu has no startup attacks like those punches. He just goes straight into jabbing with his noggin. Second, Fox still unleashes multiple kicks on a single button press after his first 2 punches, while Pikachu only does a single headbutt per button press. Because of the lack of lead up and only 1 use allowed, Pikachu's neutral attack only scores 2 damage for a single headbutt, making it the weakest neutral attack by far. Side attack does 11 damage when tilted upwards, up attack does 11 damage, down attack does 12 damage, dash attack does 12 damage. Pikachu's neutral special, his Thunder Jolt, has 2 phases to it. When first used, Pikachu shoots a ball of electricity down in front of him. When the electric ball touches a surface, it enters phase 2 and becomes a traveling electric wave along the surface it contacts. The Thunder Jolt does more damage while it is still a ball in midair before it touches a surface and becomes a wave. The Jolt does 10 damage as a midair ball. The Up special, despite being called Quick Attack, does not actually do any damage to the enemy. It would in later Smash Bros. Games, but not here. It is tied with one other fighter as the weakest up special, as the other one also fails to do any damage. Pikachu's down special, Thunder, also has 2 phases, kinda like the Jolt does. Pikachu summons a thundercloud that shoots a lightning bolt straight down onto himself. The Thunderbolt itself does 12 damage, and the electric explosion that happens next to Pikachu when the bolt connects with him does 16 damage. This one took me quite a few attempts because I believed in my heart I could hit Mario with both the bolt and the explosion on Pikachu, but it was difficult. After setting Mario to jump and practicing, I finally got the perfect timing I needed and hit Mario with both the bolt and the explosion, landing a solid 28 damage. This makes Pikachu's down special the second strongest down special. Forward throw does 12 damage, which ties with Fox and 3 other fighters as the weakest forward throw. Back throw does 18 damage, which in contrast to the previous throw, ties with 2 other fighters as the strongest back throw. Neutral aerial does 14 damage on a clean hit. Forward aerial causes 21 damage if all 7 hits connect, 3 damage per hit. Now Pikachu does have a final hit as he lands on the ground afterwards that does an additional 6 damage, however, I could not get the landing hit to connect because the previous 7 hits would knock the enemy too far away for the landing hit to reach. I don't know if it's possible to land all 7 hits and the landing hit. If it can be done, then Pikachu would have the strongest forward aerial, but otherwise this is the second strongest. Back aerial is 16 damage on a clean hit. Up aerial is 10 damage, which is tied with 2 other fighters as the weakest up aerial. Down aerial is 13 damage, which is tied with 1 other fighter as the weakest down aerial. Forward smash is 18 damage, up smash is 18 damage, and finally, Pikachu's down smash is 16 damage. That brings Pikachu's true damage score to 242. Despite Pikachu having 3 attacks that were recognized for strength feats, he also had 5 more attacks that were recognized for their weaknesses. He especially missed out on damage with his headbutt jab only doing 2 damage per activation, and his up special doing no damage at all. His special and aerial totals are way below average. His attack total is below average, and smash and throw totals are at average. For every step forward, Pikachu takes 2 more back with how hard he hits. In rank 10 we have Jigglypuff. From one Pokemon to the next. Her neutral attack does 7 damage if both hits land, which is the second weakest neutral attack. Side attack, despite being an attack that can be tilted at different angles, does 8 damage regardless of the angle, which is the weakest side attack. Up attack does 10 damage, down attack does 10 damage, dash attack does 10 damage, which is tied with Fox and 1 other fighter as the weakest dash attack. Neutral special does 13 damage, up special does no damage at all, and ties with Pikachu's no damage up special as the weakest up special. Down special does 20 damage and ties with one other fighter as the third strongest down special. Forward throw does 14 damage, back throw does 16 damage, neutral aerial does 14 damage on a clean hit, forward aerial does 13 damage on a clean hit, which is the third weakest forward aerial, back aerial does 13 damage on a clean hit, which is the second weakest back aerial, up aerial does 16 damage, which is tied with two other fighters as the strongest up aerial, down aerial does 33 damage if all 11 hits land, which is the second strongest down aerial. Forward smash does 16 damage on a clean hit, which is tied with one other fighter as the weakest forward smash. Up smash does 18 damage on a clean hit, and down smash does 16 damage on a clean hit. Jigglypuff's true damage score comes to 247. Jigglypuff was the quickest and easiest character to test out. There were no gray areas, just land clean hits where they applied, and land all the multi-hits on her down aerial. Jigglypuff had 3 attacks recognized for their strength, and 6 attacks recognized for their weakness. Her special attack damage total is the weakest of the game. Attack total is way below average. Smash total is slightly above average. Throw total is average, and her aerial total is above average. While Jigglypuff did have most categories fall on the short end, she at least got a leg up with some high damage aerials as well. At number 9 we have Mario, the face of Nintendo himself. Neutral attack does 8 damage when all 3 hits of the combo connect. Side attack does 14 damage when tilted up, which is the third strongest side attack. Up attack does 10 damage, down attack does 12 damage, dash attack does 12 damage on a clean hit, neutral special does 7 damage, up special does 15 damage if all 9 hits connect, and let me tell you, that's easier said than done. I had to make several attempts at this before finally getting it by jumping at Punching Bag Mario's butt and triggering the attack from just below. Down special does 14 damage if all hits connect. Forward throw does 12 damage, which ties with Pikachu, Fox, and 2 other fighters as the weakest forward throw. Back throw does 16 damage. Neutral aerial does 14 damage on a clean hit. Forward aerial does 16 damage on a clean hit. Back aerial does 16 damage on a clean hit. Up aerial does 12 damage on a clean hit. Down aerial does 24 damage if all 8 hits connect. Forward smash does 18 damage if tilted upward. Up smash does 19 damage. Finally, Mario's down smash does 17 damage, bringing Mario's true damage score to 256. Like Jigglypuff, Mario's moves were pretty straightforward and no debate to be had, even if a couple moves were hard to execute in practice. Mario has the least noticeable milestones with his moves. His tilt attack is the third strongest, and his forward throw is tied with 4 other fighters for the worst. Mario's special total is way below average, but everything else falls in the middle of the road. This makes total sense. Mario is generally the most balanced character in most games he stars in that have a stat system. I mean, in this True Damage Lab, he's in the bottom third of the roster, but he's at the top of the bottom. At number 8 is Ness, the PK Boy Wonder. Neutral attack does 8 damage if all 3 hits of the combo connect. Side attack does 11 damage if tilted upward. Up attack does 7 damage, which is the weakest up attack in the game. Down attack does only 3 damage, which is the weakest down attack. Dash attack does 12 damage on a clean hit. Neutral special does 25 damage if the enemy stays trapped in the jet of fire that is created upon impact. Ness's up special gets 2 entries, because of how different the 2 uses are here. If you guide the electric ball directly into the enemy, you deal 6 damage. On its own, it's the weakest up special that actually does damage, only beating out Pikachu and Jigglypuff's non-damaging ones. The other attack is to guide the electric ball back into Ness, which will launch him like an electrical human rocket. Crashing into the enemy with this deals a whopping 30 damage. That on its own is the strongest up special, and with both moves totaling up to 36 damage, Ness is the undisputed king of the up special damage. Now, flipping the spectrum, Ness's down special is a shield against opposing projectiles, but unlike Fox, who reflects projectiles back at the foe, Ness instead absorbs the attacks to heal himself. Now that has its own uses, but holds no favors for him here because it does no damage, making it the weakest down special. Forward throw does 16 damage, which is tied with 3 other fighters as the strongest forward throw. Back throw does 16 damage. Neutral aerial does 14 damage on a clean hit. Forward aerial does 12 damage on a clean hit, which is tied with Fox as the weakest forward aerial. Back aerial does 16 damage on a clean hit. Up aerial does 15 damage. Down aerial does 15 damage. Forward smash does 18 damage. Up smash does 17 damage on a clean hit, which is tied with one other fighter as the third weakest up smash. And his down smash does 19 damage, which is tied with one other fighter as the strongest down smash. Ness's true damage score comes up to 260 damage. He had 3 moves land in the strongest milestones and 5 land in the realm of the weak. Ness's attack damage and aerial damage totals were way far below the average. Throw and smash totals were average, and Ness's special move total is way above the average. A good spread all around the board, but still slightly unfavorable. Ness does surpass the lower tier damage bracket and enters as the first mid tier. At number 7 we have Luigi, pulling out 2 spaces ahead of the other brother. Neutral attack does 8 damage when all 3 hits of the combo connect. Side attack does 10 damage, regardless of how you tilt it, which makes it the second weakest side attack. Up attack does 10 damage. Down attack does 7 damage, which is the second weakest down attack. Luigi's dash attack is a flail of 6 panicked punches, and it is insanely difficult to get all 6 to connect. I was thoroughly convinced for most of this testing that you could only land 5 of the hits, and the knockback would always prevent the 6 punch from connecting. I had to go back and re-record this attack by going on the Saffron City map, pushing Mario up to the top of the slant, and then try over and over before finally nailing it. With all 6 hits connecting, it does 12 damage. Neutral special does 6 damage, which ties with Fox as the second weakest neutral special. Up special does 25 damage if you can hit them with the sweet spot. The sweet spot is like a more accurate version of a clean hit. Like, you gotta get Luigi right up in his target and then use the jump punch at point blank. But if you can get it, it's the second strongest up special. His down special is a spinning tornado punch that looks identical to Mario's, but acts completely different. Instead of trapping enemies in with multiple punches, Luigi's tornado only hits twice. Once while spinning, and once again at the end of the spinning. This is another attack I had to take to Saffron City and perfectly place Mario to get the full damage. With the right positioning, Luigi hits Mario at the start of the spin for 15 damage, Mario flies forward, hits the wall, and bounces back at Luigi just in time for the finishing blow to land for another 18 damage. That adds up to 33 damage, which is the strongest down special. Forward throw does 16 damage, which ties with Ness and 2 other fighters as the strongest forward throw. Back throw does 12 damage, which is the weakest back throw. Neutral aerial does 14 damage. Forward aerial does 16 damage on a clean hit. Back aerial does 16 damage on a clean hit. Up aerial does 12 damage on a clean hit. Down aerial does 24 damage if all 8 hits connect. Forward smash does 16 damage if tilted upwards, which ties with Jigglypuff as the weakest forward smash. Up smash does 19 damage, down smash does 17 damage, and finally, Luigi has one unique move that no other character has, his taunt. Luigi does a little bashful kick of the dirt, which actually deals 1 damage if the kick hits an enemy. He's the only character to have a taunt that deals damage, and if you count the statistics for it, it is the weakest move in the game that does more damage than 0. Luigi's true damage score tallies up to 274. That's a whole 14 points above Ness in the previous rank, which is the biggest jump in final scores in this cast of characters from one placement to the next. 3 of Luigi's attacks got recognized for their strength, but there were still 5 that got recognized for being weaker. His attack total was quite below average. Smash total was a hair below average, throw and aerial totals were average, and the special total was soaring above average. Despite having a flimsy fireball, Luigi's jump punch and Luigi tornado killed the competition in the special attack race, and his other categories balanced out just enough to keep him right in the middle. Kicking off the top half at number 6 is Kirby. His neutral attack acts exactly like Fox's. 2 button pushes for a 1-2 combo, then a third press starts a volley of punches instead of kicks. The combo, ending with 1 set of rapid jabs, deals 12 damage. Side attack does 11 damage when tilted upward. Kirby's up attack is like a backwards split kick upward. I can only glance Mario with the tip of Kirby's foot when facing him for 10 damage, but when facing away I managed a clean hit for 14 damage, which is the second strongest up attack. Down attack does 9 damage. Dash attack does 10 damage on a clean hit, which ties with Fox and Jigglypuff as the weakest dash attack. Now Kirby's neutral special is where the most different uses comes out of one single move. I allowed a total of 3 entries for this move, Kirby's Inhale, because of the drastic changes between each of the 3 ways it can be applied. Kirby can swallow his opponent whole and copy their neutral special for 6 damage. In Mario's case, the neutral special becomes his Fireball, so Kirby can use Mario's Fireball against him for another 7 damage. Also finally, instead of swallowing his opponent, Kirby can spit them back out as a star projectile for 10 damage. The star projectile can travel and strike another opponent, counting as a 4th attack to this one move, but remember the stipulation I said at the start of the video, which was each fighter only gets 1 punching bag, and it had to be Mario. With only 1 opponent, the star projectile doesn't count, because there's no one else to hit with him. Still, between the swallow, copied fireball, and spit out, this neutral special reaches 23 damage across all uses. It doesn't get any simpler with Kirby. His up special is the Final Cutter. Kirby equips a sword and does a high jumping slash into the air. This is the first possible hit. Kirby then crashes back down to the ground, performing a downward slash. That's hit number 2. Upon hitting the ground, Kirby sends out a shockwave in his immediate area, so hit number 3. And finally, his sword launches a slicing airwave forward along the ground as the 4th and final strike. In a perfect world, Kirby could hit a foe with all 4 of these opportunities for maximum damage. But alas, this is not a perfect world. To the best of my testing, I could only hit Mario with the upward slash, downward slash, and landing shockwave for a total of 13 damage. Because of the knockback from the shockwave, the air slash projectile would fly past or under Mario. In no circumstance I tried could I get the projectile to hit Mario unless I stepped back and sacrificed the slashes and shockwave to hit with the projectile, which on its own only does 6 damage. Obviously, 13 looks a lot better than 6, so the projectile went uncounted. So the obvious question rose that I had to play with in my head for a while. Do I count the jumping sword slashes and the slash projectile as 2 separate attacks and tally them both for their damage? Kinda like what I did with Kirby's Swallow and Spit Out for his neutral. Well, in this case I did not, and here's why. I put Kirby's Inhale on the same train of thought as like a combo, but that is a combo that could split on 2 different paths. Inhale on button 1, and then Swallow for button 2, or Inhale on button 1 and Spit Out on button 2. I decided that combos that branched into different attacks could be repeated as different attacks, even if the initial 1-2 was the same. We'll see a perfect example of this later. The Final Cutter, on the other hand, doesn't act like a repeated button press combo and doesn't have 2 branching variations. That projectile is still just a part of the move, Final Cutter. It's just a change in the characteristics. Pikachu's Thunder Jolt, for example. It started out as a ball, but when touching the ground, it turned into a moving electric wave. Now, I didn't count the ball phase and the wave phase as 2 different attacks. It was the same attack that just changed over time. I also don't consider a kick as 3 different attacks just because it can be tilted upward, downward, or stay in the middle. I don't count an attack landing clean and the same attack as it glances as 2 different attacks. So, similar logic with Final Cutter. Just different parts of the same attack. It's a very long-winded rant, but at the end of the day, doesn't revolutionize anything. It just explains why I'm counting Kirby's up special at 13 damage instead of 19. Kirby's down special turns him into a solid rock. While on the ground, this doesn't do much to impress anyone, but if you were to jump up high above your enemy and then turn into a rock, Kirby comes crashing down on top of them for 20 damage. This ties with Jigglypuff as the 3rd strongest down special. Forward throw does 13 damage, back throw does 16 damage, neutral aerial does 15 damage on a clean hit. It also has a landing hit that can connect and do damage, but I could not connect the landing hit in the same use of the move because the clean kick would knock the enemy back too far. This is tied with one other fighter as the 3rd strongest neutral aerial. Forward aerial does 20 damage if all 8 hits connect. Back aerial does 16 damage on a clean hit. Up aerial does 10 damage on a clean hit. Again, because of the knockback, I could not connect the additional landing hit. This ties with Pikachu and one other fighter as the weakest up aerial. Down aerial does 30 damage if all 10 hits connect. Again, the knockback prevents the landing hit from connecting. And no, despite that awesome damage, it still doesn't crack the top 3 for down aerials. Forward smash does 17 damage on a clean hit, which ties with Fox as the 3rd weakest forward smash. Up smash does 16 damage on a clean hit, which ties with Fox as the weakest up smash. And finally, Kirby's down smash does 18 damage on a clean hit, which is the 3rd strongest down smash. That leaves Kirby's true damage score at 283. Kirby's attacks got recognized 4 times for weaker milestones and 3 times for stronger ones. Kirby's really got a leg up with some damaging moves, and his neutral special getting 3 counts to add to his total didn't hurt either. But there were still just enough softies in his moveset to keep him in the average zone. Only his smash attack totals fell a bit shy of average, while his attack and throw totals were at average, and his special and aerial totals were above average. We are now in the top 5, and at number 5 is Donkey Kong. Now this could be a shock, because DK is the heaviest and tankiest character in the Smash 64 roster. His gimmick is to be the bulky, hard-hitting guy, so we need to dig into his damage tests and see why he's not top dog. Or gorilla. Or, shut up. Neutral attack does 8 damage if both hits connect. Side attack does 13 damage if tilted upward. Up attack does 13 damage, which tied with one other fighter as the 3rd strongest up attack. Down attack does 8 damage, which is the 3rd weakest down attack. Dash attack does 12 damage. DK's neutral special is a punch attack that he can wind up and charge. The more charged it is, the higher the damage, and when fully charged up, it hits for 36 damage. It is the clear winner for the strongest neutral special by a good margin. DK's up special is a rotating punch attack, very similar to Mario and Luigi's fist tornadoes. Just like Luigi's, it doesn't trap for a multi-hit. It does fewer hits, and each hit has really solid knockback. So like Luigi, I thought landing all the hits was impossible, until I revisited this on Saffron City, and well, I kinda improved it? DK has a startup punch, a second punch while he's spinning, and a final closing punch as he's winding down. Before, I could only land one of the 3 hits. The knockback was always too much to land anymore. On Saffron, I could land 2 of the 3 hits. Mario was never close enough for that closing blow, but thanks to bouncing him off the wall, I could land the first 2 hits and close this out as a total of 20 damage. Down special does 10 damage, which is the 3rd weakest down special. Forward throw does 16 damage. Or more accurately, it does 8 damage to haul the enemy on DK's back, and then another 8 damage to throw them forward. It ties with Luigi, Ness, and one other fighter as the strongest forward throw. Back throw does 18 damage, which ties with Pikachu and one other fighter as the strongest back throw. Neutral aerial does 15 damage on a clean hit, which ties with Kirby as the 3rd strongest neutral aerial. Forward aerial does 16 damage. Back aerial does 15 damage on a clean hit. Up aerial does 12 damage. Down aerial does 13 damage on a clean hit, which ties with Pikachu as the weakest down aerial. Forward smash does 21 damage when tilted up, which is the strongest forward smash. Up smash does 21 damage, which is the 3rd strongest up smash. And down smash does 19 damage, which ties with Ness as the strongest down smash. DK earns a true damage score of 286, which actually very barely edges out the previous total from Kirby by 3 points. While DK has 3 moves recognized for being weak, he overshadows it with 8 moves identified for their strength. He's the first fighter so far to rock a positive ratio between strong and weak milestones. His attack total is average, throw and smash totals are slightly above average, and special total is well above average. But that aerial total game is dropping pretty low below average. It makes sense why DK can reach the top 5, but I'm thinking the next 4 fighters might have a better grip in their weaker areas than DK does. At rank number 4, we got Yoshi. His neutral attack does 8 damage if both hits connect. Side attack does 13 damage. Up attack does 12 damage. Down attack does 10 damage. Dash attack does 12 damage on a clean hit. Neutral special does 5 damage, which is the weakest neutral special. Up special does 14 damage. Yoshi's down special took a little bit of practice. He jumps into the air, butt slams onto the ground super fast, and upon impact, a star shoots out in either direction of the landing point. This is a somewhat similar situation to Kirby's Final Cutter. Yoshi doesn't do any damage on the jump up, just on the slam down and with the stars that shoot out. The butt slam does too much knockback to follow up with a second hit from the stars shooting out, even when trying on Saffron. Again, I had to ask, is the star projectile different enough from the slam to count as another entry for damage? I quickly decided no. Again, like Final Cutter, the extra projectile that gets released is more of an extension of the move, not a completely different move. The butt slam on its own lands 18 damage. Forward throw does 12 damage, which ties with Pikachu, Fox, Mario, and one other fighter as the weakest forward throw. Back throw does 16 damage. Neutral aerial does 14 damage on a clean hit. Forward aerial does 18 damage. Back aerial does 16 damage on a clean hit. Up aerial does 15 damage. Yoshi's down aerial is completely insane. If all 14 hits land, it does 56 damage. That is the strongest down aerial in the game by far. Jigglypuff's down aerial in second place is still 23 points of damage weaker than Yoshi's. Yoshi's down aerial is also just straight up the most powerful single move in the game. Forward smash does 18 damage, up smash does 18 damage, and down smash does 14 damage, which ties with Fox as the weakest down smash. Yoshi's true damage score ends at 289, only beating out the last score from DK by 3 points. Yoshi has 3 attacks recognized for being weak and only 1 recognized for its strength, although that one move is the beefiest move in the game. Yoshi's special total is way below average, smash total is below average, Yoshi's attack and throw totals are at average, and his aerial total is overwhelmingly above average. The largest jump above an average for a specific category, and the only category to break triple digits on its own. I think it's safe to say Yoshi secures the number 4 rank because of his grossly overpowered down aerial. But it also doesn't hurt that most of his moves are comfortably in the mid to high average stretch, without too many moves falling in the weaker range. In the top 3, at number 3, we have Samus. Her neutral attack does 10 damage if both hits connect. Side attack does 12 damage if tilted upwards. Samus's up attack is a heal drop kick. She can hit an enemy with the starting kick up for 8 damage, or with the actual heal drop for 13. After many attempts, I could not hit an opponent with the rising kick and the heal drop to combine the damage. So one of two things is happening. Either this attack doesn't do 2 separate hits, it treats the rising kick as a glancing blow and the heal drop as a clean hit, or it does do 2 separate hits, but the rising kick only connects with enemies who are very vertical to Samus, and the heal drop only connects with enemies right in front of Samus. And I don't see how I can hit the same enemy in both of these two very distant positions. I'll log this down as 13 damage for the heal drop, which ties with DK as the 3rd strongest up attack. Down attack does 13 damage, which is the strongest down attack. Dash attack does 12 damage on a clean hit. Samus's neutral special is a charge shot, which gets stronger the longer it's charged, very similar to DK's wind-up punch. At max charge, the shot does 26 damage, which is tied with one other fighter as the 2nd strongest neutral special. Up special does 15 damage if all 14 hits connect. This is very difficult to completely land, and required a few tries to perfectly get an upward angle on Mario while he was jumping. Down special does 9 damage, which is the 2nd weakest down special, or the weakest one that actually does damage. Forward throw does 16 damage, which ties with Ness, Luigi, and DK as the strongest forward throw. Back throw does 18 damage, which ties with Pikachu and DK as the strongest back throw. Neutral aerial does 16 damage on a clean hit, which ties with one other fighter as the strongest neutral aerial. Forward aerial does 20 damage if all 4 hits connect. Back aerial does 14 damage on a clean hit, which is the 3rd weakest back aerial. Up aerial does 10 damage if all 5 hits connect, which ties with Kirby and Pikachu as the weakest up aerial. Down aerial does 14 damage. Forward smash does 20 damage when tilted upward, which ties with one other fighter as the 2nd strongest forward smash. Samus's up smash was probably the one move I spent the most time testing. She releases 5 explosions right out in front of her arm cannon in an arc shape above her head. Like I've said on several previous moves many times before, I can get 4 of the 5 explosions to connect, but never the final hit. Different maps, different positions, jumping Mario, still Mario, every possible circumstance I could think of, but it never landed all 5 hits. It could be possible to land all 5 hits, but I sure couldn't figure out how. In theory, Samus's up smash could do a phenomenal with 50 damage, but with only 4 hits it stays at 40 damage. Now, not that there's anything wrong with that, 40 damage is still the strongest up smash without contest, and almost double the 2nd strongest. It's also the 2nd strongest attack of all attacks here, just behind Yoshi's crazy down aerial. Finally, Samus's down smash is a sweeping low kick that swings all around her. The most damage is done when Samus hits opponents directly in front of her, as opposed to the sweep behind her, and the damage is 16. Samus's true damage score comes to 294. Samus has 3 attacks with weak milestones and 8 with strong ones. Her aerial total is a good amount below average, special total is average, attack and throw totals are slightly above average, and her smash total is huge, way above average. Samus just has a really good spread of higher power moves with few weak attacks in her kit. At rank number 2, we have Captain Falcon. His neutral attack is a 4-move combo, 2 jabs, a knee, and a quick flurry of punches. The whole combo comes out to 15 damage, which is the 2nd strongest neutral attack. Side attack does 15 damage when tilted up, which is the 2nd strongest side attack. Falcon's up attack is almost identical to Samus's in presentation, a high heel drop kick, but unlike Samus's, Falcon can actually land both hits of the kick relatively easily. The rising kick and heel drop combined deal 23 damage, which is a great lead as the strongest up attack. Down attack does 11 damage, dash attack does 12 damage on a clean hit. Falcon's neutral special is the world famous Falcon Punch. It does different levels of damage depending on how it hits, which was a bit tricky to figure out and test, especially since Falcon Punch has a small charge-up period before finally letting loose the punch, which complicated things further. I was able to get the most damage when I jumped above the enemy, started the punch, landed point blank next to the enemy, and unleashed the punch. There seems to be the smallest sweet spot real close to the captain as the fiery falcon forms around his fist. This attack at its best does 26 damage, which is tied with Samus as the 2nd strongest neutral special. Up special does 20 damage. Down special, the Falcon Kick, can be used on the ground to send a kick horizontally, or you can use it in the air to do a flaming diving kick. Either way, both forms of the attack do 15 damage and count as one entry. Forward throw does 12 damage, which ties with Pikachu, Yoshi, Mario, and Fox as the weakest forward throw. Back throw does 16 damage. Neutral aerial does 16 damage on a clean hit, which ties with Samus as the strongest neutral aerial. Forward aerial does 22 damage if both kicks connect, which is the strongest forward aerial. Back aerial does 16 damage. Up aerial does 16 damage, which ties with Jigglypuff and one other fighter as the strongest up aerial. Down aerial does 14 damage. Forward smash does 19 damage when tilted upward. Up smash does 17 damage, which ties with Ness as the third weakest up smash. And Falcon's down smash is pretty much identical to Samus's, a sweeping low kick, and just like Samus, it does the most damage when the opponent is right in front of Falcon instead of being behind him. The damage done is 16, and that brings Captain Falcon's true damage score to 301, the first true damage score to break into the 300s here. Falcon only had 2 attacks recognized for weak milestones and a whopping 8 attacks recognized for strong ones. Falcon's smash total is a sliver below average, his throw and aerial totals are average, and his attack and special totals are vastly over the average mark. It's no wonder the captain makes it in the number 2 spot, with so many moves clearing the bar and only a select few falling short. But of course, that leaves the last but absolutely not least spot, our number 1 true damage rank in Super Smash Bros. 64 as Link. Link has 2 different neutral combos, and from the same logic I gave with the Kirby Inhale talk, combos that end with varying moves will count as different entries. Link can do a 1-2 slash with his sword and end with a strong stab for 12 damage. He can also do a 1-2 slash and end with a rapid series of stabs for another 12 damage. Adding these 2 combos together makes his neutral attack add up to 24 damage, the strongest neutral attack, parentheses, and asterisk in the game. Side attack is a sword slash that does more damage if you hit the enemy with the blade directly as opposed to the hilt of the sword, which makes total sense. You don't even have to think about that. A hit with the blade does 18 damage, which is the strongest side attack in the game. Up attack does 10 damage, down attack does 12 damage, dash attack does 16 damage on a clean hit, and if the sword hits with the main body of the blade. It does less damage if you hit with the hilt or the tip of the sword. Link's neutral special throws a boomerang, which can hit opponents on the initial throw, or hit them on the return trip. I tried to hit Mario with the boomerang on both the initial throw and return trip, but it did not seem possible. The boomerang returns directly back to Link when hitting an enemy, and Mario would always fly away in the opposite direction upon getting struck by the initial throw. The boomerang hits harder on the initial throw for 9 damage. Link's up special is a spin attack with his sword, and there are a few criteria to meet for the maximum damage. The spin attack can hit twice if used on the ground instead of the air, and the hits need to land clean. Both hits land clean, it racks up 21 damage, the 3rd strongest up special in the game. His down special involves making a bomb, which can be thrown at the enemy to cause damage. The bomb can physically strike the enemy, dealing damage, as well as explode. There are a lot of different damage possibilities depending on how hard you hit the enemy with the actual bomb, what angle you throw the bomb, etc, etc. After a lot of experimenting, I seem to get the most damage by jumping way above the enemy and throwing the bomb straight down in front of their face. Doing this seems to count as hitting the enemy directly with the bomb, and also catches them in the bulk of the explosion. These 2 hits add up to 17 damage. Forward throw does 14 damage, back throw does 16 damage, neutral aerial does 10 damage on a clean hit, which is the weakest neutral aerial, forward aerial does 20 damage on a clean hit, which ties with Kirby as the 3rd strongest forward aerial, back aerial does 20 damage if both kicks connect, which is the strongest back aerial, up aerial does 16 damage, which ties with Falcon and Jigglypuff as the strongest up aerial. In Link's down aerial, he points his sword directly below him as he falls on his enemy, and I happen to notice he bounces back up after landing a stab. With the right timing and positioning, Link can do a down stab on his enemy, bounce in the same direction he knocks them back into, and land on them again for a second stab in the same movement. These back-to-back stabs deal 32 damage, the 3rd strongest down aerial. Forward smash does 20 damage on a clean hit, which is the 2nd strongest forward smash. Up smash does 22 damage if all 3 slashes connect, which is the 2nd strongest up smash. And the final move of the game, Link's down smash, does 16 damage. Link's true damage score comes up to 313. Link's only weak sauce attack is his neutral aerial, but he's got 9 attacks with strong milestones. His special and throw totals are average, smash total is just a hair above average, and his attack and aerial totals are way above the average. With no categories on the low spectrum and 2 soaring above the norm, this cements Link as the true damage champion of Super Smash Bros. 64. Thank you guys so much for watching this. If you liked listening to me spout nonsense data for this video, please consider liking the video. Comment your thoughts on whatever you want down below, and subscribe to the channel for more videos. I'm looking to take the True Damage Labs all the way through the Smash Bros. Series, and other fighting game series, or any other series with a bunch of characters that can deal huge damage. Thanks again, I hope to see you guys next time.